Hi, this is February 12th, uh, my full moon video. The moon is in Leo, headed into Virgo. My third murdered wife was Victoria, and she was a Virgo. I have to do tonight's full moon video without Greg Bowe. He's very sick tonight. Uh, my book is finished. Greg finished my book last week. It's a 1,000-page book, 982 pages, and it's available at Kindle. And it's only $4.99 over here for the electronic version, and it's 921 pages. And I was the original bottom line in Detroit, Michigan. I made the word up and I trademarked it through Weiner and Associates. And Weiner and Associates went to New York and sold it all over the place to 2,500 corporations after I gave them a lot of money to trademark it, the bottom line. And I made that word up in the 60s. And then Webster funded my school system, and my band and publishing company won the Battle of the Bands at Warren High, where Mitch Ryder went to school. And Webster put the word in his dictionary about 4 years, 5 years after my band won the Battle of the Bands, and helped the WWF steal my business name and trademark and my band's name. And we had been on the radio, and when the FBI arrested me for James Hoffa's murder, which I didn't do, they pulled me off the radio. And the name of the book is The Original Bottom Line, Oakland County, Michigan Child Killings. I knew all the kids. John F. Kennedy and James Hoffa murders. The whole Oklahoma bombing leading to 9/11. And everything in this book is truth. Truth you've never heard. And I'm the first guy the FBI detained for Jimmy Hoffa's murder because my mother-in-law was with him. And my mother-in-law and her daughter, whom I married, introduced me to Whitey, who sold me a car. And I'm not in any book or any movie about James Hoffa's murder. And I'm the first guy the FBI detained because my mother-in-law was with James Hoffa at the Sly Fox. So you can get this book. It's a 921-page book for $4.99 at Kindle, the electronic version. I'm still working on the paperback version. It should be out in 2 weeks, maybe next week. I have to reduce it to 800 pages because Kindle won't print 921 pages. So I'm reducing the font and rearranging the book for the paperback version. And all of this is truth. The Osbourne family murdered my twin out of Hoover School, and the FBI funded my school system. And my high school was on Arden Street. Arden is Sharon Collins' real name, Mrs. Arden. And that's Ozzy Osbourne out of London, his wife's real name, Arden. And my high school was on Arden Street, and the FBI funded that high school also. This is all information that they've covered up for 70 years. My family was President Lincoln's guest in Ford Theater, and my family ran Ford Mansion in Dearborn, Michigan after Lincoln's killing for a long time. So if you want to know the real history of the United States, read my book. It's truth, and it's really what happened to James Hoffa and John F. Kennedy in Oklahoma bombing. Tim McVeigh and Nichols lived next door to me for over 30 years. And on 9/11, they blew up my civil rights case against the family that built the Pentagon. And they had to blow up the receipts to worldwide theft of my publishing company, bottom line, which McMahon and DuPont stole when they created TV wrestling. And they murdered me 3 times before I was 17, 18. And doctors kept bringing me back to life. So I'm going to end this share. And here I am. And my entire family has been murdered 6 times since I was born. And there's no lie in this. My wives and my children, 5 of my children were murdered in 2 states on the same day, in Michigan and Indiana, as I sat in L. Brooks Patterson's office, telling him about the 5 families of governors who chained me and my twin to a Philadelphia toilet with Darrell Hall, who gave you the Eagles. And they tortured and raped us. And unfortunate for my twin, he was murdered. And Osbourne's house was between Hoover and Vance Street. And Osbourne was Trump's election committee with Stone. Stone cut the bone out of my foot as torture as John F. Kennedy was murdered. And my mother was a Navy nurse. She was an LPN, RPN in World War II, where she met my father. And my father served with Kennedy, and so did my wives, who were murdered. And my mother ran the election committee in Michigan to elect John F. Kennedy twice. The Twin Towers were built on Pratt Street, and the day I was handed over to the pedophiles who murdered my twin and tortured me for gay sex, and I'm not gay, and neither was my twin. We were 4 years old. We were in kindergarten. And Camille Surhan had just been put in our kindergarten class that day. And Baker is my family. Ava Gardner is my family. She married Mickey Rooney and Frank Sinatra. And my grandparents were Fuller. And my mother's sister was Ava Gardner. And Fuller and Gardner made Hollywood. And all of this is truth that you've never heard. You have Ava Gardner Street and Fuller Street, next to Detroit Street. And people like Bush put Hitler in power when he got out of jail in Germany. Prescott Bush did that. And then his son made Hitler's uniforms in Greenville, Tennessee, and his parachutes for 8 years during World War II. Employed 3 or 4 cities in Tennessee where my wives were murdered. And George Washington left me his sword. And I'm related to President Jackson also. And now Trump wants to do away with the penny because he doesn't want you to be reminded of Lincoln. And Trump's election committee murdered my twin. And more of this will be revealed after my death by the author Greg Bowe, if he's still alive. We made videos about other parts of the Kennedy killing. Kennedy was talking right to me, a Tribune publisher on the front page of the Tribune, in his last speeches. And there's no lie in any of this. The news media, when two of my wives were dismembered and murdered twice, once at our Civil War ranch in Tennessee, in Greenville, Tennessee, and then again at the hospitals they were put in after I revived them from their first murder. They were murdered a second time. Victoria was in a wheelchair with MD, and they murdered her and sodomized her and dismembered her right in a hospital. And a state policeman from Senator Graham's state had cameras in her room and photographed her murder and recorded it. And no murder charges were ever filed. And her ears were missing. She'd been sodomized and bleeding from her lower colon for a month. They had to give her all kinds of transfusions, and all of these things are in a book. And they slit her throat Halloween Day. All of my wives and children were murdered on holidays: Christmas, July 4th, Halloween. And my last wife was murdered as the FBI murdered Lavoy Finicum. Her name was Nancy Lavoy. And they had cut her leg off. And these were hired hitmen. State police and local police hired in 3 states to murder my wife. And they were all murdered on a Civil War ranch in Tennessee, in Mossheim, Tennessee. It was the Battle of Blue Springs, where the North turned the South back and began winning the war. Just before President Lincoln was murdered by the actor Booth. And my family made Hollywood years later, before I was born. And the US government stole patents for buses, vans, milk trucks, the Fuller transmissions and semis, the geodesic dome from my mother. She was the daughter of Fuller. And Bill Gates, his mother was Baker, and Ava Gardner's her mother was Baker, and Marilyn Monroe was Baker. And all of these people are in my life. And Hoover hired Marilyn Monroe to go to bed with Bobby and John F. Kennedy and spy on them. As his Nazi boyfriend, he had a gay lover, murdered my twin and tortured me in the Osbourne basement. And all of this has been covered up by police in Oakland County. The last kid murdered was Timmy King, I believe. And that was President Ford's real name, King and Gardner. And I'm the King and Gardner family. So if you want to know real history, read my book. It's on Kindle. And I'll show the share one more time. They list me as an author and Greg Bowe, B-O-W-E, as an author. And this is the book, and it's $4.99 on Kindle. Everyone listening to this video, if you live in the United States, you should read this book. It's all true. They stole over $3 trillion from my life. I'm going to stop this share, and here I am back again. And you heard me right. They stole over $3 trillion from my life. We made the Fuller transmissions for semis in Battle Creek, Michigan, and they're still made there, I believe. You go 5 gears, you pop a pin and go 5 more. And the military used them, all the semis used them. And that's my family, the Fuller family. They also made brushes for horses and women and gave you Doris Day. And Gardner made the first TV series, my mother's sister, Make Room for Daddy. And they gave you St. Jude's for Children. And that money was in the banks Trump borrowed money from, but he never paid any of the money back. So he robbed St. Jude's for Children cancer research from the Make Room for Daddy TV series that Gardner made, the first TV series on Earth. And they don't tell you any of this. That's the end of my video for today. And Greg, I hope you get better. I know you're very sick, or you'd be here. Good night, everyone.